Hey, family, it's your family CPA, Jasmine Young, and you're listening to the Talk Wealthy to Me podcast. Get you a black CPA. We out here. Welcome to this episode of Talk Wealthy to Me podcast. I hope you guys have been having a great week thus far. We have an amazing show ahead of us for today, and I've gotten a lot of calls about real estate. Of course, being a participating vendor with Keller Williams, we get a lot of calls about investing in real estate or purchasing a home or preserving homes, whatever the case may be. We get a lot of real estate questions, and even though we are good at what we do, we know when to pass the buck to somebody else. So I'm excited about today's guest. He's not only special just because he's my cousin, y'all, but he is dope at what he does. So welcome to the show, Mr. Johnny Lynum of Operation Invest. Lil Johnny, how you doing?
Doing good. Glad to be here today.
I'm glad
Super
you
excited.
came. I have not seen Johnny in years. I think I was a baby when you were at home. I was still like in elementary school.
No, you were probably in middle school. I ain't that old now. Hold on.
Barely. barely. But it's so good to see you doing your thing in real estate. And I'm pretty sure you've gotten a lot of questions. I see you doing your thing on Facebook, flipping properties, creating generational wealth through real estate. And people need that information. So before we get into all the good stuff, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and why you do what you do.
Awesome. Yeah. So as you alluded to, from Grove Hill, Alabama, Watley, in the Ridge, down in the sticks, like I like to tell people, but grew up humble beginnings, graduated, went off to the University of Alabama, got my electrical engineering degree and commissioned as an officer in the United States Air Force. And so kind of been doing that for the last 16 and a half years. Got married along the way to my beautiful wife, Melissa. We have 3 kids. And, probably around the 2015 timeframe is when we actively started fixing and flipping houses, but I bought my first property back in 2006, leveraged my VA loan. And then from there, I was kind of hooked after I realized that I could buy a house, pay less than what I was paying in rent each month for my apartment. And then I could leave and then rent it out and make cash flow every month. And it goes up in value. I get tax write-offs, and then, and just the overall just benefits of them having my mortgage paid down by my tenant, my resident each month. So, it just locked me in from there.
Absolutely. So I don't know if y'all can tell, but everybody in my family dope. And I don't mean that to be funny, but Johnny, I mean, from my perspective, if real estate is something that I want to get into investing. So I kind of watch what you got going on too to try to figure out, okay, how can I get in from this standpoint and build generational wealth from that piece. So shout out to you being able to use your resources to create generational wealth. So let's get into it. For those who are interested in investing in real estate, like what's the first step? Like how do you go about it?
Take action. In my new book I just released last month, you got to take action. That there's so much information out there that, you can read the free podcasts, you can watch podcasts like this, you can read books, blogs, you can go out and seminars and professional development events. But at the end of the day, you got to take action on the information that's readily available out there. But then also, make sure that you align yourself with the right mentor, the right coach, or somebody to help you get over the pitfalls and, leverage their expertise so you can level up and go through and accelerate your journey. Because that's the one thing that I didn't do. I didn't network like I should have, and I could have accelerated my wealth building journey a whole lot faster if I hadn't just done it by myself. And, so that's one of the things that I just encourage people is like, you can level up, but leverage other people's information, whereas that you can accelerate that journey. You can get to where you want to be at a whole lot faster.
I definitely agree. And I can speak to that from my standpoint, like being able to go to people that's doing what you're trying to do or that have done what you're trying to do will help you like miss some of the pitfalls that you otherwise wouldn't have known about until you actually fell into them. So that's very, very good advice. Now, when it comes to investing in real estate and getting the loans for the real estate, is it different? Is it a different process from buying a home versus purchasing commercial property that you're planning to renovate, flip, and make investment income off of?
No, that's a great question. So there are different loan products out there, but I'll tell you, so for somebody starting off, you need to own your home, your own home, your own primary residence. And
Yes.
so the reason I tell people that is most of the programs, whether it's FHA, VA, I don't even think conventional even cares. You're only required to live in that house for a year, and then you can transition it over to a rental property.
Right.
And you don't have to put a lot of money down. FHA is only you can get a home for 3.5% down. Conventional, as low as 5% down payment. Then V8, 100% finance is zero down. And so now you're able to get in control of this asset, and then you can leverage it after a year to become a rental property, compared to if you just buy a rental property or investment property outright, you're going to have to put at least 20 to 25% down from day one. And so for a lot of people starting off, that the number one challenge that I get from talking with people is always financing, the money to get started. And so I think buying the primary residence and then having the vision to, buy it in the right area where you can transition out of it and keep it as a rental, and then repeating that process and buying another home is the easiest way for most people to get started, versus just going out and buying a straight investment property where you have to pay 20 to 25% down.
And you know what? I never even thought about that. I always thought like, okay, I'm in my home now. I want to go buy a commercial property that I want to rent out, but I don't want to leave my house. So I'm glad that you brought it up that, hey, look, stay there for a year and get out. I mean, even you can still own the home, but just look to move around. And I'm going to be honest, I hate moving. It is not my best thing. I hate packing. I hate unpacking. So, but at the same time, when you see the purpose of it, it makes sense. Okay, I can hire movers to come move me because I'm making money off of this rental property. So whatever. So I'm glad you brought that up. That's actually a dope strategy. And one of the biggest questions that I get from people is, okay, how do I get my credit ready for me to get financing? So that's the part that we come in. But you're basically saying, hey, stay where you are for a year and then move. And then I think that's a great point that gives people like a timeline of, okay, if you want to get another property, you got a year to figure this credit thing out before it has to be up to par to move to the next one. So that's a dope strategy. Strategy.
And then one thing I add to it too is you could buy a duplex, a triplex, or a quadplex with that same single family loan product. So you don't have to just buy a single family. You could buy a multifamily all the way up to 4 units with that same loan product. So VA, no money down, and you can buy a fourplex.
So I'm actually glad you brought that up, because a lot of people, another question we get is, how do I know which property I should buy first? What's better, a single family home or a multifamily home? Like, how do you choose which type of property you should invest in? For the people that have never invested before, what would you recommend?
I think I would say go with the 4 unit every day, because you from day one, you get the 3 units that are already up and running. You're going to use the income from those to qualify for the loan. And then also from day one, you're going to be a landlord. You got 3 units from day one that you're managing. So, whether you want to have a property manager manage those or you want to get that experience yourself, you can do that from day one. And so now you're different than a single family, whereas then you move out. Now you got 0 occupancy. You're waiting for a tenant to come in place. But when you have 4 units, one tenant moves out, you're only losing 25% of your income. And so I think, for those that are able to find an opportunity where they can get multi-units, that go in, because the process is the same for the loan with closing and all of this, the same amount of work that you could do for 1 unit that you can do for 4.
Absolutely. Now you talk about having tenants, and the tenant piece is where your income is coming in. But talk to us a little bit about how important it is to be able to afford the entire property on your own in the event that tenants don't pay, or you don't get tenants in the time frame that you would need them in order to cover the monthly mortgage for the loan.
Most definitely. Cash flow is king. Having cash and having those cash reserves are very important to being a landlord, and then just business in general, being able to project your cash flows and understand, how much money you would need in time of a vacancy. And so that's one of the things with underwriting that a loan officer or the bank, they're going to actually go through and do. They're going to look at your cash reserves. How much money income do you have? How much debt do you have? And then if something happened, whereas that the property was vacant, for an extended amount of time? Would you have enough to reserves in order to pay your mortgage and not default on the loan? And so that's something you definitely have to keep in mind. And so I tell people, you always need to have that emergency fund, that rainy day fund that you're building up to kind of have set aside, whereas that it can cover you whenever life happens, because life always happens. So
absolutely. And that's something that CPAs that we stress all the time is having a budget. If you've never budgeted before, I would not recommend you going out trying to get a rental property, because if you can't manage your own finances, you're going to struggle trying to manage another property and the income and the expenses that come with it. But before we get into those expenses, we're going to take a quick break and give our sponsors time to actually tell us who is sponsoring this event, this specific episode, and we'll be right back. All right, we're back talking with Mr. Johnny Lynum of Operation Invest. Y'all, he's dropping all the gems as it relates to investing in real estate property and getting that passive income. So Johnny, we were talking about expenses and cash flow as it relates to managing properties. Talk to us a little bit about some of the everyday expenses you would need a cash reserve for in order to manage a property and keep a property up to par and livable.
Yeah, so kind of looking at the evolution of a property. So when you go in, when you first buy, you get a home inspection report. So you should understand the age of the high dollar or high ticket offers when it comes to your roof, your HVAC, your water heater. So those main primary systems in a home are going to be your most expensive. So you want to know the age of your roof, the age of your furnace, the age of your water heater. So when things go wrong, or that, hey, my roof is 20 years old, I'm probably gonna have to replace it in a couple of years, or my water heater is 20 years old, it could go out any day. I may want to go ahead and replace it now before it bursts and go out and cause more damage when that happens. So you want to project out kind of the systems that you have in the house and see the age of those. And then just know the most expensive time for a landlord is when you have turnover. So when a tenant or resident leaves out, that's when you have to come in, you have to clean the carpets or potentially replace them. You're going to have to paint throughout. You may have to update the fixtures or do other things like that. Whereas that's the time frame that you may have to spend $2,000-$3,000 to turn the property over, just depending on the level of damage that they caused, during their time there. And so that's one of the things that kind of expenses you got to look out for and be prepared. But, sometimes those come far in between. I had one tenant that's in my first house that I bought in 2006 that's been there now for 11 years, and she hasn't moved out. And, we fix things here and there. Just like when, the air conditioning goes out, you have to replace a board or something like that. But, so it kind of had a full spectrum from, small stuff to big stuff that you have to plan for. And during those good years, when you're not having a lot, you still need to put away 10 to 12% each month for when that rainy day happens. Whereas that over 10 years now, your roof is getting older. Now you have money set aside to make those large renovations to the property.
Absolutely. Now you talk about managing the property. Do you recommend that people use a property management company, or that they manage the property on their own?
It depends. I'll tell you, I have property managers that manage like our apartment building and some of our single families, and we manage some of our single families since my wife is stay at home. And so in order for me to get the real estate professional tax exceptions and all that comes with that, for being a professional, we let her manage a couple of properties where she can have at least 750 hours of hands-on involvement with the rentals. Whereas that now we can take our losses that come with the real estate investments with the depreciation, and we can actually carry that forward over to some of my active income. And so it just depends on the strategy, the time that you have versus the money. Because I tell people, treat it as a business. Whereas that if you don't have the time and if you're really focusing on growing it as a business, then hire that property management, give them the 10% to manage it, where you're not wasting your time on low-level tasks that you can outsource to somebody whose time is worth more, or actually whose time is worth less than yours. And so it just depends on where the individual is and what their goals are.
And I'm actually glad that you brought up that 750-hour requirement, because I get a lot of people that say, I got a rental property, but I don't want to put it on a Schedule E on my taxes. I want to put it on a Schedule C. And I'm like, well, you can't do that because you're not considered a real estate professional. So it actually comes into play whether or not you manage the property yourself, or if someone else is doing it, how it's accounted for on your taxes. So I'm actually glad you brought that up. Now, I also get a lot of calls about people who are getting into real estate investing, flipping properties, preserving them, whatever the case may be. And they say, do I need an LLC for each property, or can I get an LLC and purchase all of my properties under this one LLC? What would you recommend?
So I'm not a CPA and I'm not an attorney, but I would tell you at first, if it's your first property, it doesn't really matter. Right. Because, if it's in your personal name or in your LLC name, it doesn't matter because you can go out and get an umbrella insurance policy for $1 million for like $500 a year. Absolutely. Whereas it increases your liability coverage on top of the insurance coverage that you have with the property. So from that perspective, you're covered from a liability standpoint. But as you do more properties, yes, you want to have your LLC incorporated. You want to have your EIN where you can get your business checking account. You can treat it as a business and everything that comes along with business, where eventually you get your business credit that comes on board. And actually, when you're flipping properties, if you're leveraging hard money, that those lenders require you to have a LLC because it's considered a commercial loan.
Absolutely. We get a lot of calls about, well, do I need to make an LLC for each property? Like, what do I do? And I think people get so caught up in names and titles that they don't really understand why are you getting an LLC in the first place? Like, where does it become a must-have when you're dealing with real estate? So I'm glad you brought that up. Now, you mentioned something earlier that we got to get into, this book, Millionaire Real Estate Success Strategy. Tell us about your book.
Yeah, so my book just came out last month, back in January. Well, actually, in December, the Kindle version came out, and the paperback just dropped here last week on Amazon as well. But so I wrote thank you. So it just dropped. So I wrote the book 10 months last year, went through a program at Georgetown University, and I really just wanted to capture my story, my personal story with, graduating from University of Alabama and not having any financial literacy from a standpoint. I didn't know about the real estate market. I didn't know about stocks and bonds, but I was trained to engineer to go be an employee. And for me, it was like I had to go out and, go through the process of learning it and picking it up kind of off the cuff. And, for me, it was like, okay, I want to just document my journey on building up our $1 million portfolio and building a 6-figure real estate investing business part-time while I'm still, working my full-time support to the Air Force, and just share that. And then I also brought in the stories of other investors that I know in my network and just their process that they went through in order to become successful. At the end of the day, it's really, I wrote the book to motivate people, to let them know that, hey, we're all just ordinary people out here, but we just have information that you don't have. And guess what? They're not teaching you this in school. So you got to go out and receive and pick up this information somewhere else. Absolutely. And just encourage people, but let them know, for the techniques that they need with taking action, networking, joining the right mastermind groups, goal setting, and then just kind of going through and sharing some of the stories, specific to how to finance any property, fix and flips, wholesales, and then apartment investing as well too.
Absolutely. So if anybody's looking for the book, where can we go to get it? I noticed you mentioned that it's on Kindle and the paperback just dropped. Tell our conversationalists, as we like to call our listeners, where we can actually get the book.
Yep, most definitely. So you can go on my link tree and you can get a little bit cheaper than you can on Amazon. So, but yeah, definitely the Military CEO on Instagram. You can get it there off my link on my bio, or just go off on Amazon and just search Millionaire Real Estate Success Strategy.
Absolutely. So y'all know how we like to do. I need y'all to go and crash Johnny's site, buy the book, follow him on Instagram, all of his social media handles, and get this free, it's not free, but get this information from somebody who's been through what you're trying to get into. It's very important for us to see people that look like us and hear people that look like us talk about things that we want to get into, and who better to educate each other than ourselves. So speaking of that, Johnny, we have one more special topic that we want to discuss. Not only did you just drop a book, but you're coaching people now, right?
Yep, that's true. Yep. So I'm a coach. So, that's the thing. Over the years, I've been helping people kind of get their portfolio going, with picking up rental properties or, execute a fix and flip and just kind of being a consultant. And so with the book, and just putting it out there and going through the process, that I had a friend of mine that I respected that challenged me. He was like, dude, you need to put a course together. You got this information. People need this. And he basically told me I was selfish for not putting the course together.
Wow.
He was like, because people,
I never looked at it like that.
Yeah, you know, and I didn't either. And you know, it was a mindset shift for me. And he was like, you selfish because people out here looking for this information, and you're allowing them to go out here to people who don't have their best interests at heart, who don't know what you know, and they're taking advantage of people. And you could be given so much more value, but you don't even have anything out here to even where people can reach out and you can actually give back to more people. And so that was the driving factor behind it. We're putting my coaching program together, whereas that I, just be able to help people in a group setting, whereas go take them through an 8-week journey on essentially how to put my business in a box, and then give them, live consulting during the week for an hour where they can ask questions on as they go through and implement it for their particular strategy and in their individual life on how everything is moving for them, how they can implement what I put together and execute.
That's dope. And, I love a good coaching program. I love courses. And people need access to information. That's what I think the biggest part of financial literacy is, that people don't get is not the fact that you're hearing this information from all over the place, but you're actually getting access to people that's providing the information to be able to ask those clarifying questions, to be able to get, hands-on experience or be able to glean from their experience versus just reading a Google page about how to invest in real estate. I think that's very, very important when it comes to building generational wealth and becoming more financially literate. It's connecting yourself with people that can help you walk that journey to get from point A to point B. So that's dope, Johnny. I'm so proud of you. I'm so glad you decided to come on the show. This has been so informational. I know there's going to be so many people that are going to reach out to you regarding your coaching program, that are going to be following you on social media or in your inbox trying to get more information on the book and the coaching program. So thank you so much, Johnny. We really appreciate you. Before we let you go, I want you to drop your contact information one more time for those that want to connect with you, whether it's social media, through email, website, whatever the case may be. Go ahead and drop that information.
Yeah, most definitely. So on LinkedIn, Johnny Lynum, I'm out there. And then my website is johnnylynum.com. And then on Instagram, The Military CEO. So between there, they can find me and just send me a message, DM or whatever. And I'm always loving to help people and kind of help people get out and get started with getting real estate, because, I always tell people that, you can need to buy real estate and just wait. Whereas that, if you don't take building generational wealth serious, it's not going to happen on its own.
Right.
And so that's the biggest thing that I just encourage people that they need to just make a decision and move forward with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Johnny. I really, really appreciate you for coming through today. Y'all, if you have any more questions about investing in real estate, hit up Johnny, social media, LinkedIn, Instagram. Hit up his website, slide in his DMs. Now, he is married and I don't play by my family, but y'all can slide
play those games.
Y'all can slide in his DMs about real estate, but real estate only, okay? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This has been another episode of Talk Wealthy to Me. I am your host, your family CPA, and I'm wishing you love, peace, and generational wealth. Somebody say, hey, we want some. Thank you for listening to this episode of Talk Wealthy to Me. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like, comment, and share.